Hey everyone, this is Sam from Warhammer Online, and today we've got the General's Handbook 2017 edition, so the General's Handbook number 2, which has just been released, and there's absolutely loads and loads of information in here. I've had a flick through, I've had a look at some of the bits and pieces which are inside, and I have to say I'm really happy with it. I was a little bit worried that, only just spent £15 on the previous version of the General's Handbook, and this has come out, and I have to say I'm really happy. There's loads of content in here, and having all of the updates which are with this book are definitely a good way to go with the game, rather than having it stale and start to, you get the codex creep that we've had in the past. That doesn't really exist anymore when they just release a new General's Handbook with new points values. So we're going to take a look at what is inside. We'll go page by page as much as possible and look at some of the main areas which have been included in this book, which I think are pretty good. Okay, so beginning, it says there's multiple ways to play. As we already know, you can do any way you want that suits yourself. The book starts with open play games, which allows you to take any sized armies. You don't really worry about points, and it explains all of that in here, along with the open war cards, which I'm not going to go over now. At the end of this video, I'm going to go through the open war cards themselves in a little bit more detail, but you basically get extra scenarios, so maps and objectives and twists that you can use to play your games to mix it up a little bit more. So we'll have a look at that in depth later on. Then we've got multiplayer games, which I think is just fantastic. 2v2s, 3 players, it basically says any more than 3 or more, and they call them coalitions of death, and you have 2 sides fighting each other, or you could potentially even do more than that if you go with the triumph and treachery rules, which we're going to look at later on. But there's all sorts of stuff inside here, how to form your army and how to fight the enemy. You've got extra rules for your generals as well as heroes in there, and you basically select one of the generals per side to be your warlord, and they have a special rule that they can do. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. One of the nice things I like they've included here is the messengers special rule. So players can only discuss strategy if their generals are within 3 inches of each other, and then no enemy models within 3 inches. And otherwise you have to pass notes at the beginning of each turn. You've got 5 minutes to do that, which I think is amazing, adds so much confusion. You've also got charge declarations, so you don't even tell your teammate or opponent who you're charging in the charge phase. You just have to write it down and then roll it and do it, which can be crazy but a whole lot of fun. So having your warlord, they can do a divine intervention once per hero phase if you meet the criteria, if depending on which faction you are, if you're order, chaos, destruction or death. The order one is really nice. If you have lost half of your units, at least half of your units that you started with, you get some special rules. You have to do a bravery test, and if you pass that you get all of the effects, which it shows you here on the right hand side. One of them lets you do a lightning strike on up to 3 enemy units, and it also lets you heal D3 wounds in every unit that is order in your force, as well as re-rolling saves until the next hero phase. They also, with all of these divine intervention, that you always ignore battle shock tests until the next turn, which is really, really cool. We've also got some rules here for chaos, destruction and death. Destruction, for example, if at least half of your units that are in the coalition are within 3 inches of the enemy, every one of those units gets +1 to their attack profile, as well as being re-rolled to re-rolling failed charges, which is just huge. So there's some really cool multiplayer rules there. We've also got 6 extra scenarios or battle plans which are for the coalition of death, and there's loads of special rules in here. Night March in particular has got one where you're fighting at night, and the rules go alongside that as well. We have triumph and treachery, which is returned, and this used to be fantastic for playing multiplayer games, either small 3 to 4 player games or going up to much bigger numbers, and all of the rules that you need to play this in a much more simpler fashion are inside this book, which is really nice to see. There's loads of rules for like doing treacherous acts, so each turn you can earn however many treacherous points you get, and you can spend them to tamper with the enemies which are on the board, which is everybody, and it's all about being treacherous, as the game title would say. So you can, if a wizard's about to cast a spell, you can spend some treacherous points to stop him from casting, and then somebody else on another one of your enemies might join in and kill them for you. So it's all about playing it as a big multiplayer game. And there's 6 battle plans again to go alongside the triumph and treachery. One thing I haven't looked at properly is whether you could mix them up, so even if you're playing some match play games, taking some of the battle plans from the previous ways to play. This campaign is really good as well. There's loads of rules in here for playing campaigns and adding special rules depending on which realm you're in. And that leads on to the narrative play, which is very similar. So you can build your own story, you can follow the story of the Age of Sigmar, and you can build your armies based on that as well. So if you wanted to do themed armies, it gives you a good idea of how to do that inside here, as well as having a whole load of rules. I mean, the pictures on the artwork in here is just stunning. I absolutely love the book and all of the different colours that are in here. But all of this, I mean, look at that artwork there, more dead skeletons. But all of these rules show you, if you're playing in a certain realm, what rules would be good to use alongside that. We've also got Realm Gate or Realm Wars scenarios. So there's so many battle plans in here, I don't think we would even have time on the channel ourselves to get through all of these. But there's just so many different battle plans that you can use, which is brilliant because it doesn't get stale, it doesn't get boring, and there's always something new to look forward to. So there's so much information in here, really cool artwork as well. This is something I didn't hear anything about, which is the sieges. So you've got siege warfare in Age of Sigmar now, where you can use your big castles and your walls, recreate things from Lord of the Rings and things like that, as well as having giant tree barriers and fortifications. And there's 2 scenarios that go alongside this, and all of the rules that go with siege warfare as well. Because it's all about, I think I've quickly seen that you can starve the enemy out, you can batter their defences, and you can tunnel underneath their fortifications. And then we've got the big bit for me, which is matched play. So a lot of the rules we've seen in the previous General's Handbook, explaining a little bit about tournaments and how they work. You've got the pitched battle rules for choosing your army, so all of the allies that are now available, because that's a new thing that's been introduced, which is 20% of your force can be consisting of allies, and you get certain ally options later on. We also have the rules of 1 listed down here, and they've added a couple more. So the first rule of 1, you can only cast 1 spell per wizard per turn, so you can't spam Arcane Bolt. The rest of them are all here as well, so you can have a quick glance. And we've got the rules for allies as well, which is what I've said, it's 20% of your army can be consisting of allies. We've also got 6 new battle plans to use for pitched battles or matched play. So the previous General's Handbook is still worth having just because of the battle plans in there alone. So although all of these points which we're going to look at now have changed, and some of the abilities might have changed on things, it's worth having it just for the battle plans. Now they have put a nice little star, a Sigmar style star, next to every unit that's had some sort of change. Not all of these have been point changes, although a lot of them have been, especially these battalions down here. I've seen a lot of point changes, and especially increases in battalions. But it's generally, sometimes it could just be that buying a bulk of say 30 or 40 clan rats is going to be cheaper than buying them in 10s or 20s. And actually Mike is pretty annoyed because clan rats, you can only buy them in a minimum of 20 now, so he's got to paint more clan rats. Bless him. We've got loads of them anyway. Basically all of these profiles have been updated with their new points, as well as compiling the lists for all of the older points. So if you don't have the old General's Handbook, there's no need to buy it if you don't want to buy it. So we'll quickly flick through this. We've got some scenery points as well, and the allies, which is interesting. At the bottom of each of these profiles it shows the allies which are available for the allegiance that you pick. We've got a blank army roster, and then we go on to Forces of the Realm, which is huge. Choosing your allegiance now, we've got loads of new allegiance abilities and artifacts, which is great. So there's loads of little ones there. I'm tempted to start the Wanderers and do my Wood Elf army finally. So we're going to have a quick flick through these. I'm not going to go into it in detail, but you can see we've got the Order, so the Grand Alliance command traits and artifacts are on here. And I haven't even looked to see if there's any different ones. I think they are the same. But we've got stuff like the Darkling Covens, which have now got their own command traits, battle traits and artifacts. Same with the Dispossessed, and later on we've got some more of the Fire Slayers here. And they have 2 extra battalions as well. So they're inside here. I missed out the Free Peoples, can't miss out them. Seraphon, so Rachel's going to be happy with that. Again, 2 more battalions to go alongside them. Wanderers, which I need to read fully to see if I'm happy about it and if I'm going to pick them up, and so on. Even Beastmen have got their update. I think Rory has got something to do with those. So we'll go through all of these, like I say, packed with information, and that is the end of the book. So there's a lot in here. If you are playing this for whichever reason, if you're doing open play, narrative, or pitch battles, if you're doing competitive tournament play, you've got all of the rules that you're going to need in here. to help you and to go forward with the game, and they've left Iron Jaws till the end because they are the best, obviously, especially the Iron Sons. So hopefully that has helped. You've seen a little bit clearer what's inside the book, and it might be something for yourself. We're going to go on to the open play cards now and just have a look inside those. So these cards have been released and they are designed for, I think, open play. Phil was telling me that for open play is amazing. He kept telling me, and he said you can't say anything bad about open play. So I'm not saying anything bad about open play, but I think we can use these in our pitch battles for the channel. I think tournaments and clubs can use these in any sort of games because it does randomize everything that you're doing battle plan wise. We've got the basic instructions how to use them. You split your decks up, so you do a deployment, an objective and a twist deck, and when you start the game you basically draw the top card from each of those, and that will tell you what you're playing that mission. So it will tell you what deployment you've got to do, what objective it is for the battle plan, and what sort of twist there is to the game, because sometimes they will be quite huge and game changing, sometimes there'll be nothing. On top of that, you've also got the ruse and the sudden death cards. So if you are under points compared to your opponent, or under wounds, I think they say to use it as, you get to draw a ruse card. If the enemy has at least double the amount of wounds to you, or double points, whichever way you want to play it, you get a sudden death card as well. So we're just going to take a look at some of these objectives here. Now this is the Field of Glory. Place one objective, bloody, 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 bloody. At the end of the 5th battle round, the player that controls the most objectives wins the battle. So this is just explaining how you can actually win the game objective-wise. Then we've got Invasion, and this is one where both players put down an objective. A player wins basically if they control both of these objectives at the same time. So quite easy win in one way, difficult in another. We've got War of Attrition, and that is basically whoever causes the most amount of wounds by the end of the 5th battle round will win. So there's no objectives to fight over, it's literally just kill each other. And we've got some others in here as well. I'm just going to flick through them here, but there's a number of objectives which you can choose, and you can, well, choose them, or you can randomize it from the top of the deck, whichever way you'd want to go with it. It's really nice. It definitely mixes it up. We noticed there was a lot of samey sort of games that you were playing over and over again. By just playing, say, 6 battle plans, it does become very similar very quickly. So having this to mix it up is definitely going to be a good thing. Right, we'll move them to one side, and then we'll take a look at the twists. Now these are quite interesting. So this is Dead of Night. The maximum range of all attacks and spells is limited to 12 inches, and then at the start of every battle round you roll a dice. On a 4 or more, it increases that range by an extra 6 inches, and you keep doing that every single turn, so you can increase the range of what you can actually shoot and use spells on, which is a really huge one if you're playing dwarves or free company or scryer or anything like that that requires shooting to do well. It can be huge. You've got the same here for Storm and Magic, adding 1 to casting and unbinding rolls, but if you roll a double then you might kill yourself. So again, there's a little bit of a twist there, as it is named so aptly at the start of the card. We've got Wrath of the Gods. Each player can roll 3 dice at the start of their hero phase. For every 6 you can pick a separate enemy unit and inflict D3 mortal wounds upon it, which is quite a big one. Nothing major on all of these, just nice little effects that have been added into the game just to add a little bit of a theme or a narrative to it, and a little bit of randomness to it as well. And like this one, you can heal a unit at the start of each of your hero phases, which is cool. Some armies don't have access to healing spells, so having a twist that does that is quite cool. Not something you base your army on, but definitely a nice addition. Okay, so we'll just flick through some of these twists. You can see what the other ones are. And it's quite nice as well. I mean, looking at these, you could also come up with your own twists and your own objectives. You can see not all of these are going to be competitive worthy, and it might encourage you to come up with your own rules from time to time. We've got our ruses and the sudden death cards next. So the ruse, this one is you basically get to redeploy 3 of your units. So if you are outnumbered on wounds compared to your enemy, you may draw this ruse, and it allows you to set up a little bit better. So again, not a huge thing, but sometimes redeploying can win you the game. This one's really nice as well. We've got Lethal Inferno, so you can pick a terrain feature within 3 inches of a friendly model and you set it on fire. And for the rest of the battle, any model, friend or foe, that ends their movement phase in it are dead. and Pink said, you know, you could do that on the Vortex. I can't remember the full name, the Vortex scenery. If it is classed as terrain, you can walk up to it and set it on fire and burn whichever wizard is sitting on the back of it, saying that they can't be touched. And you just walk, you could form a ring around the scenery as well and watch them burn, and they have no escape. It would be brilliant in a very fiery thematic way, of course. Finally, we've got the sudden death rules, and we'll have a look at the deployments as well, but these are the same as the ones we've seen in the core rules. Again, it just shows you some of the cards that you can choose or randomize. It can make you win the game very quickly, even if you are massively outnumbered. Finally, we've got the deployment cards. Now this is just showing you different ways that you can deploy your armies, and you can randomize this again, or you can choose. Okay, so that's everything really. That's the new General's Handbook 2017 and the open play cards. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully it has helped a little bit, and you can go down to Games Workshop and pick it up if you're interested. And if not, at least you've had a bit of a heads up. Other than that, thank you very much for watching this video. Give us a like and a comment down below if you think you'll be picking it up, and I'll see you on the next video.